All right. Well, hello everybody. Normally Matt does this, but yeah, I had a bunch of free time over the past month, so I figured I'd give him a hand while he was working on his PyCon talk. So yeah. All right. I suppose it's sort of funny when we often do this, where we do this after we've had the person do the talk, which is usually Damien. But anyway, there'll be an agenda where we talk about coming up that Damien will be talking, but we'll get to that. Cool. Yes, I suppose this is all the front matter. Okay, here we go. So imagine I just swapped around. Where were we going with this?
That's just because Barry always does the videos first. So thanks, Barry.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Oh yeah, that's right. And this led on to, yes, there is now the playlist for the Meetup videos, so feel free to check that out. All these links are clickable if you look at the slides afterwards, by the way.
Yeah, Damien also knows you've been publishing, published 1 or 2 videos that you and Jim or you and Nathan recently had just done recorded some work sessions. So if you're interested in that, it's also in the official account, but the playlist that I've got just has the Meetup videos.
All right. So headlines, since I guess it was mentioned at the last meetup, but there was going to be some talks about MicroPython coming up at PyCon AU, which is in Adelaide in less than a month. So tickets are available now. I think the early bird ones have sold out, but $390 if you're interested and can get to Adelaide for that weekend, the 18th. Well, so it starts on the Friday with some specialist tracks, but the main talks are the 19th and the 20th of August, the Saturday and the Sunday there. If you're a student, it's quite a bit cheaper, so check that out if you're interested. But yeah, 3 talks. Damien's doing a roundup 10 years of MicroPython on Saturday morning. Matt then doing, I guess, a deep dive, would you call it? Or
No, it's just a half-hour session.
Okay.
But, yeah.
You can't do that in MicroPython, so look forward to that. And then Jim's got WASM in your wheel on the Sunday. So, yeah, I guess even if you can't attend, there will be, there's an online version you can attend if you like. I think that's only $30 or something like that, so you can watch the live streams of it. But if not, there will be the videos sometime after to catch up. Oh yeah, this was the one that you had, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. So there's also, so on the Monday and the Tuesday after PyCon, they usually have, there's no sort of talk schedule, but they tend to do like a sort of just a anything goes kind of hack and make sort of deal. And yeah, I guess Matt's looking to put together a MicroPython sprint day. So I guess reach out to Matt if anyone's interested. I'll be there. I think I've got some stuff to play with that we can have a look at. Yes, and I guess this you can't do that with MicroPython. I think this is what you're perhaps talking about in your talk, right? Yeah. So looking at and I suppose this has also kind of come up in some professional stuff where I'm, at work, talking to people about doing things in MicroPython and meeting some resistance around, yeah, exactly these topics of performance or, power or volume and things like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that talk. Cool. All right. And well, as Damien just took us through, the LORA support officially landed. So if anybody wanted to, Damien, you mentioned that you'd done the talk previously. I found the link to the video of that, so people could go back and watch that. Obviously with the caveat that, as you mentioned, the API has changed a little bit, but haven't had a chance to play with it yet myself, but yeah, certainly the documentation of the examples look really, really good. And I think somewhere at home from years ago, I've got a couple of those Semtech modules that if I can find which box they were in, maybe I will actually get them out and have a play with them, because yeah, certainly playing around with them at the time, it was with like an Arduino C++ thing. It's much less fun than in MicroPython. Cool. All right. So last month we talked about BLE support landing for the Pico W. To follow up on that, there's a couple of tutorials. So Kevin McAleer's got a video and a really good write-up as well on using a Pico W to drive a robot using another Pico W as a remote control for it. So yeah, that was an interesting watch, definitely worth checking out. And then also related, the PyCast podcast had a chat with, well, talks Raspberry Pi Pico W Bluetooth in MicroPython with Phil Howard. So yeah, a little bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, worth checking out as well if you're interested in that.
Phil's also a real character, so it's I've only seen a little bit of it, but yeah, it's worth a watch.
Good stuff. Now, what was I actually can't remember what this was from last month, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I think Damien did touch on the ESP IDF version 5, so we'll keep going on that. Yes, so some other big news. Arduino released a new board, the Nano ESP32, which is based on an ESP32 S3 chip, and sort of interestingly, it doesn't use you know, some of the Arduino boards have previously used, you know, their more traditional AVR type processor with something like an ESP8266 as a just for Wi-Fi. But yeah, this one does away with that, and you're actually using the ESP32 itself directly. And I guess it's interesting because they launched it with MicroPython support. And actually, we'll also talk a little bit later on in the software news. Yeah, they've actually also put together, well, they've been working on it for a little while, but have sort of released new versions of some MicroPython tooling for their supported Arduino boards. So yeah, interesting to see, I guess, Arduino kind of getting behind MicroPython. Cool. All right, so new hardware. There's always lots of fun new things coming up. Kickstarter campaign for the Hacky Pi, which from what I can gather seems to be like various things you can program it to function as a like a USB HID device, so keyboard, mouse, that kind of thing. Useful, you know, they reckon for ethical, like white hat hacking type things. So yeah, that's Kickstarter at the moment. Worth checking out. Now I thought this was really cool too. I know have you ordered one of these, Matt? Yeah. Matt's got a whole collection actually of various gaming type devices, so I'd expect to see one of these in his collection sort of soon. But yeah, the Picopad. So this one's based on the well, RP2040. I think behind the scenes you just solder on a like a Pico W module, but it's got a built-in, you know, LiPo, LCD, and yeah, it's about 50 Aussie dollars. They also said, I didn't look into it, but supposedly they're also working on different sort of learning resources, and yeah, they specifically call out having MicroPython support. Cool. Another gaming device, the Kytronic Zip 96. So this one, oh, sorry, I didn't mention on this one, it's a kit that you assemble yourself. So I suppose that's, yeah, also playing into the education angle. This one comes assembled. You just plug your Pico W into the headers. Similar sort of angle with an education perspective. They've, yeah, got things like lesson plans, powered by AA batteries, which I guess may be useful in an educational setting, less likelihood for, you know, fire and things like that. Although I suppose interestingly, it does away with the LCD, and instead it's got some addressable RGB LEDs. So you know, obviously slightly lower resolution, but yeah, it's $74 from Little Bird Electronics. Now this one I put in because I was particularly interested in getting myself one of these things. This is Sonoff make all sorts of smart home automation type things, and fortunately for, you know, hackers and makers and whatnot, and especially if you're interested in MicroPython, a lot of their stuff, including this one, tends to be powered by like an ESP32. So you can put MicroPython on it. And in fact, I found Not Enough Tech had a little sort of tear down on it and did exactly that. You know, it's got the programming headers and everything that you need to easily flash your own software on it. supposedly out of the box, I guess it comes with an app from Sonoff that you can program to do other sorts of smart home things. But yeah, certainly I'd be getting that off there straight away and flashing it with MicroPython. I suppose I should say I'm not sure how it would work in a legal perspective in Australia, that I'm assuming it doesn't have like RCM certification or anything like that. But yeah, you can plug it in and replace the light switch with it if you're sort of adventurous. And it's only $25 US, which yeah, for some sort of smart home things, you expect to pay quite a lot more than that. So yeah, it looks like it's essentially a capacitive touch plate sort of thing that you can you know, program to do different things. So it's got built-in LED light rings around the back that you can do obviously different colors. I think I saw a video of like a chaser pattern. You know, it supports gestures and things like that. And impressively for you know, something that's so cheap as well, really, it's also got like a little haptic feedback vibration motor in it. So you know, when you touch the thing, because there's no tactile feedback, it's just a glass plate. Yeah, it's got a little haptic feedback motor in there as well. So I'd actually be really cool to go keen to get one of those. Cool. As usual, a bunch of stuff from M5 Stack. This one, the Atom QR code scanner. So yeah, it's got a little sort of built-in, I'm guessing some kind of embedded processor they've got doing this, but it presents just a UART interface to one of their Atom boards that you plug on the top. So that's just an ESP32, and we'll basically scan a whole bunch of different types of barcodes and QR codes and things like that. So $50 US. I thought this one was really cool too. So this is the M5 Stamp S3. It's a incredibly tiny looking little ESP32 S3 board. Got a button, RGB LED, and it's only 26 by 18 millimeters. It's kind of neat. It's got you can get 1.27 millimeter spacing pins for it, which you know, if you're working on a particular project where you want access to more of the GPIO but you don't want a larger form factor, then that could be handy for you. But they've designed it in a way that you can fit, you know, the sort of conventional 2.54 mil pins and use it that way as well if you like. And it's $7.50 US, so incredible. And related, they also make a breakout board for it, so that if you do want all of the pins but you don't want to deal with the you know, smaller pins, yeah, a breakout board for that as well. All right, now this one, this is actually pretty cool. I didn't get as long to look into this as I would have liked, but it's a what is it? It's a RISC-V CPU with, and I'm not entirely sure, I think it's actually built into the same silicon, but it's got a neural network processing chip on there as well, hooked up to a camera. And supposedly they've got various MicroPython libraries and whatnot that you can do things like face recognition and detection and yeah, lots of computer vision type things all running on this, you know, incredibly tiny little little board. So yeah, I would be keen to actually have a play around with that a little bit as well. But yeah, $40 US. Cool. All right, well, software news. I haven't got a whole lot in this section. I guess Damien obviously covered off a bunch of stuff for us already. But yeah, here are some, I guess, some links for if you're looking back later. These are the yeah, the various Arduino tools that they've come out with to support their sort of their new board, which they're, you know, touting MicroPython for. So they've got a I guess, especially if you're coming from the world of Arduino and you're familiar with their you know, their sort of classic looking editor, they have the Arduino Lab editor for MicroPython. So yeah, similar sort of UI to what you might be used to from your C++ Arduino. But it's also got things like a graphical browser for the board that you're connected to. So you kind of like what you can do with Thonny, things like that. They've also built a new, I guess, graphical tool for flashing MicroPython onto their supported Arduino boards. So I gather that obviously includes the the new one they've just released, but I think there's a few other ones that they've previously released that also support MicroPython. And then the third one, it's not so much a nothing that you can install specifically, but they've started making, I guess, effectively a curated list of MicroPython libraries, which I believe they provide access to sort of to easily install for you through their editor. Yeah, it sort of could be interesting to see how it goes. I guess their justification for it was that they felt like there was you know, in their words, a whole bunch of libraries out there that some of them weren't necessarily maintained or you know, up to scratch. So yeah, could be interesting to see how they go with that. I guess the hope is that it doesn't result in ending up with a bunch of MicroPython libraries specifically that only work with Arduino boards, but you know, we'll see how we go. All right. And Matt's just chucked this one in too. So Infineon webinar on Hackster.io. Okay, so including MicroPython on PSOC, but so you can sign up for that, but it's at 2 a.m. in Melbourne time. So check it out if you can.
All right, I might still. So Infineon, I think we covered this last month.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Infineon have got a port. They're trying to get behind for MicroPython, so it seems like there's some interest there. So I'm curious to hear what they have to say.
Yeah. They do a recording?
I think it is going to be a recording. Yeah.
Might be worth watching the recording. Cool. All right, yeah, cool. I enjoyed doing this little bit of the slides and seeing all of the different projects, and there's a bunch that I didn't make the list, but yeah. Anyway, this was so this was cool. Xiaojiang on GitHub, just a little pure MicroPython library for I guess what is essentially like a one-wire communication bus. Haven't played with it all, but yeah, I like the idea. Worth checking out. And I like this sort of stuff too, because IKEA definitely make a bunch of cool stuff, obviously none of which natively supports MicroPython. So I love to see that someone's pulled apart the goodness, the Vindriktning, sorry, air quality sensor. So this thing, yeah, there's a really, really good write-up from Alistair Allen on the Raspberry Pi blog. He's gone into quite a lot of detail of sort of how this thing works and all the different components that are in it. And yeah, he essentially pulls this thing apart, adds a PKW in there, and then exposes it using MicroPython to present as a RESTful API that you can yeah, query it. So he I think he connects it to some sort of IoT type dashboard as well. And I love too that he's opened it up and seen that it's got you know, sure, it does air quality, and it does there was something else it does there as well, but it didn't do barometric pressure, so he added in one of those as well, because you know, why not. And he's got all the code for that in a little gist on GitHub. So yeah, that's I haven't actually, I should have checked if IKEA do sell these in Australia or not. I hope they do.
I'm just checking now. It looks like they're $19.
Perfect. There you go. And it gives you a nice little case.
I think I'm on the right site, but yeah, I'm just looking.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's really cool. Oh, and I love this one too. So this so Mike Gladding has made himself I believe he's built quite a few of these actually, and if you follow that link on the GitHub page, he's got, you know, big, very, very detailed readme about all of what he's done here basically. But he's got a fleet of Raspberry Pi PKWs, which he's hooked up atmospheric sensors and a little display, connected it to a Grafana cloud sort of graphing dashboard. Yeah, and he's gone into just, you know, incredible depth, and you know, as well as explaining everything, has also got all of the application code available. Yeah, definitely interesting, you know, worth checking out if you're looking at really doing anything that involves even just parts of this. But yeah, he's got atmospheric pressure and temperature, humidity, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really good stuff. Cool. Oh, and I just put this one in quickly at the end here too, because I always enjoy a little bit of 3D printed stuff as well. So I've got to say, I don't fully understand exactly what it would be used for in a machine learning sense, but somehow useful for classifying machine learning feature data. Cleverer people than I would know what that means, but yeah, the whole thing is an open source project. So the 3D printed parts are under the CERN open hardware license. I'm not sure specifically about the license for the MicroPython parts, but all of it's done with MicroPython. Essentially, there's some Hall effect sensors connected to those sort of little strap-on finger bits, and I'm not sure which processor it used. I think it might have been a PicoW. Yeah, reading from those Hall sensors to determine the pressure that each one of the fingers is exerting. So yeah, apparently it could be useful for well, somatosensory device is apparently what you would call that, a term I hadn't heard before. I think it looks cool. I feel like you could also make some sort of game out of it as well, but yeah.
This guy's been doing some really interesting stuff. He's trying to help people with disabilities. And so I think this sensor is actually designed to do all of the training with someone without a disability, so he can pick up like the electromagnetic sensors when the physical parts aren't there. So
Yeah, okay.
do some really interesting work though.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, okay. Just a couple of quick little things. There was an interesting, well, interesting for the fact that it was MicroPython. Someone's used a little, effectively like a Pico board with a Ethernet on it. This, yeah. But connected to the SendGrid email API and also the ChatGPT API to schedule sending out encouraging emails to himself. So thought that was kind of cute. Arguably doesn't really need to be done in MicroPython, but shows that, you know, it can. Also, I'd be really interested to see, I haven't played with it a lot yet, but PyScript, there's a talk on that from Nicholas Tolovi from Europe, or done at EuroPython. So the videos for that
that's already up
soon,
online, I think.
Ah, okay, excellent. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, PyScript, I need to play with that more, but I love the idea of not needing to write browser-based code entirely in JavaScript. I'd much rather do it in Python. Yeah, I think that's the idea. Yeah. There was also, okay, so I've got a video coming up. This this embodying fluidity. I'm not sure if that was actually MicroPython related, but it was bloody cool. So I'll get to that on the next. Oh, actually, no, I've got the link here because I couldn't figure out how to embed it. I wonder if this will work. There was also an interesting article for make use of, just doing a comparison of what's the best language for microcontrollers: MicroPython, CircuitPython, Arduino, or C. I haven't actually read the whole thing myself, but yeah.
Not clickbaity at all.
Yeah. Oh, right. So this was an example of the email that is produced from the first link that I was mentioning there. So so here's some encouraging words from ChatGPT, emailed to you courtesy of your MicroPython Pico board. So there you go. Cool. Final thoughts. Well, really just got a couple of pictures because I think Matt caused these to be created, and why not?
Midjourney is awesome. He's having fun with it. MicroPython, or small snake on microcontroller burning or something is the
Yeah,
cartoon.
incredible. I love it. Hopefully all your projects don't have so much fire involved, but you know, makes for a good story. Cool. All right, I think that was that. Cool. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Sean should have a look at the chat. There's a bit of comments there. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else got anything to add, or before we duck off?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe it's a dumb question. So I'm following this Blackner who
Mojo?
created basically the VM device for the guy.
Yep.
And he made it in a company called LORA.
Yep.
And inside that they made this module thing, which is like an extension.
Yep.
And there they are adding an extension to Python to allow you to add extra constraints and basically I'm not sure just compile or interpret or both and
Yep.
optimize the extended module / Python code to the hardware.
Yep.
And I'm just curious, is there any option towards around for the thing doing somewhat like seeing the idea for MicroPython, like giving hints and allowing to optimize the code and cut out the not needed.
Yep. So guys, if you can't hear online, the question was around Mojo, Chris Latner's project from Modular, and using type hints to get better performance out of the language. Damien, I guess you'd want to talk about Viper at this point, or no?
Sorry, so the main question was, can type hints be used to improve performance?
Yes.
Or yeah, are we using similar techniques to what Mojo is employing to make MicroPython run a bit faster?
Okay. Yes, I have heard of. Yes, I do know about Mojo, but don't recall many details. We don't really use type hints. We do have a few. Well, const is probably the only type hint we're using, which is a MicroPython specific one that allows you to declare constants. But no, we don't otherwise do it because Python's really dynamic. So, you can't even assume time.sleep is actually time.sleep, sadly. But yeah, as Matt alluded to, there is this Viper mode, which is like a Python syntax C semantics, and you need to use types in that to say something's an integer or a pointer, and then it will, if it's an integer, for example, it will just use machine instructions to do the addition and subtraction or whatever you're doing with it, and it won't care if it rolls over or anything. Doesn't support big numbers in that sense. So it's quite, as I said, C semantics really. But yeah, I mean, Viper is a very special case. So it would be good one day if we could use more type hints. For example, like annotating an inline function. Annotating a local function to a module which could be inlined in that module. That would be cool. Yeah, but I haven't really looked in depth at Mojo, so maybe they have some ideas we could borrow.
Yeah, it's a little different, I guess, because they got a compilation step if you're going to take advantage of it. So it's
You have to flash the code to the device. So
well, we don't. Yeah, that's the point. We don't have to. That's all the time with MicroPython. So yeah, so you have to flash the firmware to it. But once you've got the firmware, the MicroPython firmware running it, you can put the Python files on it runtime. Yeah. So I'll talk to you about a few other options we've got here. It's probably worthwhile.